going to go live. Just give me 1 second to get us onto Zoom, or sorry, get us onto Facebook. Bookings. And all right, I like to do a little bit of a dance just to kind of get us warmed up on the Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. I'm Jen Fine. I'm a co-founder and head of product at YouLi. And we are the best platform for organizing group trips. And we are hopefully going to become the best platform for selling refundable trips as well. So that's what this webinar is all about. And so I have a few guests on with us today to help us sort of help to understand what it means to sell refundable bookings as an option to your travelers in the face of these interesting times that we find ourselves in. So we have with us Bianca Giles from Reho Study Tours in Australia. And she was the one who actually recommended that we look at this product. And so she's been really gracious in going through the process of discovering what this can do in terms of the customer experience in selling tours coming out of all the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. So she'll be sharing her perspective from actually using the product for her first trip this year. And we also have from Refund Protect, we have Lucille Pickering.
Hello, hello. I actually know Bianca very well because we worked together in Australia when I worked for Protect Group in Sydney, which is where I initially started for the business. But I'm currently in North America in San Antonio, where I've opened an office here. So hello, Bianca. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all.
It's a small travel world. I love it.
Isn't it? In the Refund world.
Amazing. And we also have Shardis, if I'm saying that correctly, from Refund Protect as well.
And saying hello to from Istanbul to everyone. Actually, like Jen, you're originally from the US, but now you're based in Australia, and Lucille has started in Australia. We used to work in Istanbul office together. Now she's based in the US. Sad to see her gone, but yeah, here we are. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining us.
Well, that's what you got to love about the travel industry. People just move all around and we make it work. And so I know a lot of people are going to be watching this on replay because of time zones. So if you do have questions following up after this, please feel free to send them through. And oh, I see Latin Trails is having some camera issues. No worries. Those who've just joined, you can turn on your cameras if you want to, but you're also welcome to just watch and learn. So I wanted to just kick us off a little bit. I'm going to share my screen and just kind of introduce the what is Refund Protect. So this is from our FAQ. We'll send out this link as well. Refund Protect will protect your reputation and revenue by providing an exceptional customer experience when customers need a refund. So that's the basic summary of it. And you can read all the details here. We're going to hopefully go through some of these in a high level and then dig into more details. But basically, by working with YouLi and Refund Protect, when they go to pay, they'll be given this refundable booking option. So the conversation that we're having today is to help you understand why you would want to enable this on the YouLi platform for your bookings. But just wanted to give you a bit of a visual for what that's going to look like for your travelers should you implement this feature on the YouLi platform. Bianca, are you okay if I show one of your trips just as an example of this?
Yeah, definitely.
So this is a Reho Study Tours.
Jen, sorry, I think Jen, I can see the change a co-planner or team member to trip coordinator page.
Well, let's try that again. Thank you. This one might look a little bit better.
Yes.
Hey, thank you. So just jumping back to the FAQ, we'll send this link out so you can read this in more detail, and just a preview of what I meant to be showing when I was speaking before is what this looks like here. And basically, if we show you a live version, that'll make a lot more sense. And so this is what it looks like for Reho when they are checking out. they actually get an option to make their refundable booking on by default, or they can choose to make it non-refundable. So just want to give that context for everyone in terms of the visual of what that looks like, because we're going to start getting into like communicating to travelers what it means and all of that. But this is the choice that you are offering your customers if you enable Refund Protect on your YouLi booking pages. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to stop my screen share for now, but happy to pop that back up at any time if we have specific questions around that. And really, I just want to start by kind of letting Bianca kind of tell her story. So I want to start with, why did you choose to integrate with Refund Protect?
Well, coming out of COVID, we obviously realized that we needed a better solution in order to incentivize travelers to get going again. So I predominantly work with universities, which, as I'm sure everyone is aware, are particularly risk-averse clients. So to get their students traveling again, we really had to make sure that our offering protected everyone as much as possible. So we obviously have our own terms and conditions, but Refund Protect has really allowed us to, I guess, step that up without a huge impact or any impact to us and our bottom line. We can adhere to our own terms and conditions more strictly, make sure we're sort of putting our own refund policy, and we can stick to that with our students. At the same time, though, because we have been able to implement Refund Protect, it still means that the students are more protected. They still get their money back. So they're in a better off position, and we can still continue to run our business, which is definitely a great, has been really incredible, actually. So really fantastic product, and we've been really happy with it so far. So yeah, that was basically, that's awesome. The crux of it.
Nice and straightforward. I know Refund Protect often says, look, it's a really, really straightforward product. You pay to make the booking refundable, and according to the terms and conditions, you can apply for a refund and get a full refund if that becomes necessary. So Lucille, do you have any other kind of comments to clarify on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything that Bianca has just said is completely correct there. Refund Protect essentially is a refund service that allows you to enhance your current T's and C's, and it's managing the risk in the traveler's life. So if they break their leg, if they fall ill, if they get COVID, then they can apply for a refund. And as Bianca said, they would get 100% back of what they paid at the time, including the Refund Protect fee. And this is to enhance the customer experience that they have by choosing this refundable booking, because a lot of the terms and conditions that are in place, and you're all going to know this far better than me, but the terms and conditions that are in place at the minute is if the liability falls to you as the event organizer, then you have to pay the refund. Well, sometimes people need a refund when things have happened to them in their lives, and that's where Refund Protect kicks in. So it's managing the risk in the individual's life in the run-up to the event. It manages the risk of transaction up to arrival at the destination, that time period. And as Bianca, I think, will agree with me, when there is travel and group travel, people are booking further in advance. They have more time, there's more risk in managing the what could happen. So Refund Protect allows you to manage what could happen in the run up to the event.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, from Reho Study Tour's perspective, we did initially integrate the product for COVID purposes, because we thought that people would need more protection with the perception of still, or not the perception, but still with COVID still hanging around, I suppose. But actually the people that have used it so far, we've had a couple of people cancel, and none of them has been for COVID related reasons. So by default, it's actually offered that extra level of protection that we didn't have before, but would have absolutely come in useful. So it's actually been really good from that side.
That is really interesting and surprising, actually. So that's good to discover, so that it does have potentially a sort of post-COVID value prop, so. even as that sort of fear fades. And so one of the biggest questions that I always hear when we're talking to people is, how do I explain the difference between Refund Protect and travel insurance?
Do you want me to take that
Bianca,
one
why don't
on.
we get your first
See how I've been
perspective?
doing.
Yeah, see how do you do it?
So for us, we were from the beginning, we've never referred to it as insurance. We have had clients ask us, oh, is this like a second insurance policy? And we've always been very clear that no, it's not a second insurance policy. It's an extension of our terms and conditions. It's a Refund Protect solution. So we've been very, at no point do we use the word insurance. If someone comes to us and potentially refers to insurance, then we sort of will explain to them that they can still have their insurance policy, which is issued by them or the university. This is that additional layer of protection that they can have in addition to the current insurance policy that they have. So, I mean, from our perspective, we're just very clear on not using the word insurance and not referring to it as insurance, and just maintaining that communication of it's an additional protection, it's an added layer, it's on top of, which, yeah.
Yeah, and Lucia, do you have more to clarify on that?
Absolutely correct. Again, Protect Group and Refund Protect is not an insurance provider. We are not an insurance product. We offer a refund service. And one of the main reasons for that is we actually pay an awful lot of our refunds out of our own commercial pocket, outside of the, accident, illness, injury, where maybe an insurance provider would pay out. We would pay where life gets in the way, essentially, when there's been a genuine unforeseen circumstance that's happened to the individual. Now, this could be a family relative is unwell, or you've had to be relocated for work. Now, usually the terms and conditions of an insurance provider will be pretty rigid and not allow for a refund, whereas we would accept any genuine circumstance that has stopped the person from traveling to offer a high level of service. And we're actually very precious about not being presented with any kind of insurance. Very well. We are very simply a refundable booking. And this is also for you, because there are so many insurance providers within the travel industry. And me personally, as an individual, I think I have 3 lots of insurance that I could claim for if I needed it. And that's on my credit card, that's on my, I've got some individual travel insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you present an insurance product to a traveler or customer within the booking journey, we actually see conversion drops, and conversion, people don't tend to opt in. And that's because they have all these insurance products in their lives already. And also there's a very negative connotation around insurance. I'm not going to get a payment. I'm not going to get the money back. It's going to take forever. We are simply a refundable booking. So we see very high conversion. And yes, we absolutely do accept any genuine reason outside of the customer's control and would work to do that.
Yeah,
just
and
to clarify.
I was just going to say as well, with that, because I don't know all insurance policies, but with us, our client has one sort of overriding insurance policy that all their travellers come under. And given that that's a large corporate policy, it tends to have its holes. Decent coverage for when they're overseas, but prior to travel, it just doesn't offer that same level of cancel it, like you can cancel for whatever reason and get your money back. Typically insurance is better for once you've left, not prior, and this really fills that hole as well, which is also a benefit to the client, the university client, because this isn't out of pocket for them either, but they're still, from their perspective, offering that additional layer of security to their students as well.
And so that's an interesting distinction, right? The sort of the pre-trip versus the on-trip. So travel insurance covering very much like you've broken your leg while you're traveling. That's a travel insurance thing. But it's the I got COVID or lost my passport before I travel. That's more the refundable booking scenario, right? One thing I wanted to clarify is when travel insurance offers cancel for any reason protection, do you still need Refund Protect in that case, or does that kind of make it unnecessary?
When it's cancelled for any reason on the insurance, I think, again, just going back to the point that Bianca just made, which is a very good point, that this manages the risk in the run up to the event. So if you book a holiday 6 months in advance, you're managing that time frame. So the risk adverse customer will choose Refund Protect to manage the risk in the run up to the event, and travel insurance for the just before and whilst they're on the trip. And that's what we see with a lot of the OTAs that we work with. Flight Hub or Just Fly we work with in the North America market, and they offer some travel insurance within the booking journey alongside the refundable booking to manage these customers and give them the opportunity to have the insurance, but also have a refundable booking as well.
And Ackland, do you have any clarifying questions there on these distinctions?
No, it makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure about the overseas insurance market. I just know with our guys, when they get travel insurance, it does cover them between now and departure. And that's probably the thing that's tripping a lot of people up. You're telling me I need to have travel insurance and I'm getting it. And so what's this in between it? And there was something on Reho that I just wanted to get a distinction. Is it the university paying the fee for the students to go, or the students paying their own fee?
The students pay their own fees.
Okay, yeah, cool. All right.
So yeah, it's very much, we are actually exploring how if a university were to pay on a student's behalf for a program, what we can do there. But at this stage, 99% of the time, the student, will pay their own fee for the program, and then they have the option to upgrade to a refundable booking once they check out and make that payment. And I've also just seen a question here from Eleanor: does Reho still offer any portion of their booking as refundable? So we do still have our own terms and conditions. Typically, we'll offer a refundable deposit up until a certain point, but at this stage, no. Depending. For the most part, no. Our standard is, I think it's 90 days before, 90 days beforehand, everything becomes non-refundable, which is typically the time frame that we've now got all of our students coming in, paying the deposit and paying their final payment. So from our perspective, non-refundable, but then once they've opted into Refund Protect, they've got that added security. And then with the insurance, Ackland, there is definitely, from my perspective, for my clients, I know that there's a hole in the insurance policy, and that's not necessarily, that may not be the case depending on the types of insurance or the particular insurance company that you are using for your specific clients. So yes, I think the decision may change depending on what is offered from an insurance perspective. But for me and my clients, this is definitely filling a hole where the insurance company is not covering it. So I have the ability to add that extra layer of protection there.
Right. So Jen, so what we did, we have created as an upgrade, if you want to upgrade this, and we identified that there were insurance policy, unless you are totally familiar with your insurer's PDS, there could be holes, there could be all these catches. Have a look, and this is the upgrade. If you're not sure between now and departure, this will protect you. And I think that's probably the best point. We're not sure on what our clients choose for their insurance products, so we don't know if they're covered, but at least this way we know that between now and departure, there is a level of protection. So I think that was, getting that positioning right was important for us to be able to say to the client, hey, yeah, sure, you're going to get travel insurance, but does it cover you for X, Y, Z, or things that you haven't even considered between now and departure? If you're not sure, we have a solution.
That's great in terms of the framing of that as an upgrade or as an option. And actually, just to be clear on that, as I showed earlier, when you enable Refund Protect on your booking pages on YouLi, you're basically allowing them to choose. So they don't have to adopt this. And I've had a lot of people come to me and say, can you make them agree to my terms and conditions like again and again and again so that they really read them? It's like, you know how you get people to read these things? Put a price tag next to it, right? So it's like, oh, I need to read this because if I choose this option, it costs me an extra amount, or I can decline that. And so that forces people to really read that. And if they make that choice to make it non-refundable, then that's a clear thing that they've chosen to do, rather than them coming back and being like, I didn't know. It's like, well, we made it really explicit as part of the checkout process. So I do just want to make sure this isn't something that your travelers have to take up. This is something that you are offering to them as an optional upgrade. And so on that point, Reho or Bianca, how many people chose that option when you launched it for your first trip?
So the first trip we launched it with, we had 220 travelers. We had a 96% uptake, which was incredible. Since then, we've launched another 2 groups, smaller groups, 20 students each, and it's been 100% uptake on both those groups.
Whoa. That seems unusually high. So
I don't know, Refund Protect, is it?
In all honesty, that's not surprising at all. It really isn't. We do see incredibly high opt-in rates, certainly off the back of COVID, and the way that the service is presented as a refundable booking with the reasons for refund clearly stated in the placement. And the price point is very important as well, because you do have the ability to apply a small margin to our cost to generate a new revenue stream if you so wish to. So there is the price point to consider there as well. But yes, we do see very high opt-in rates, especially in Australia. We do. That is one of our areas that we tend to choose the option.
And we're seeing that question here, just to clarify, it's a 5% fee that is charged by Refund Protect. And so that will pass through to Refund Protect. But you can also choose as an operator to add another percentage onto that. So actually on that point, Bianca, how did you come to choose 8% as the amount that you're charging for this service?
So we charge 8%, in all honesty, because it sounded like a reasonable amount. We felt the perception of, say, if we charge 10%, the perception of 10% felt like a lot. It's sort of easy to calculate. Once you go into double digits, it's just that perception, especially for students, that you're charging quite a high amount. Whereas we found that 8% was a reasonable amount. It wasn't too costly on top of the package amount. And it gave us a little bit of extra revenue as well. So a decent amount of sort of passive revenue. So that was really the reason. And we've actually found that it was a good decision because we've never had any question about the cost of Refund Protect from any person that has ever opted into Refund Protect. So for the moment, 8% is working really well.
And what's your average sort of trip cost?
About 5,000 per person.
Wow.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I think that's one of those decisions that that every operator gets to make. They can just pass through the 5%, or they can add on an additional amount. So that's just something that we configure for you when you get onboarded. I also see another great question from Michelle at GLE. If they pay in installments, do they pay Refund Protect on top of each installment or just one off at the start? So at the moment, the way that we're integrated, you have to opt in from the beginning. So if they've already paid a deposit in the past, they cannot start protecting it now. So that's just a limitation there. But if they come in from the beginning and they have the option at the time of deposit, if they choose that option at the time of deposit, then they pay only for the deposit at that point in time, but they are agreeing to pay that percentage across all the rest of the installments. So they are agreeing to sort of make the entire booking refundable. Now that's currently the way that we're integrated and implemented, but there is some motion towards being able to do protected payments, I think is the phrase. Bianca, do you want to explain that a little bit more?
So yes, because of the current limitations, once a student opts in or once a traveller opts in, say they pay a $500 deposit, they'll only pay the 8% on that $500. We don't charge them the entire Refund Protect fee at the beginning because, again, the perception, that just looks like a lot. Whereas if you're only paying the amount on top of what it is you're actually paying. But as Jen said, if you pay for the deposit, then you have to pay it on your final payment, which is not necessarily a big deal, but we really felt like we need to give our travellers that extra bit of flexibility. You know, something may happen where they don't necessarily need to protect their final payment, or for whatever reason, I don't know, they may make that decision. So we have actually been pushing for protect your payments, which means you can opt in and opt out on each individual payment that is made. So you can make it, one of the things that I will bring up is that if in going down that track, we had thought that you then need to have a minimum payment amount that the student would need to make for an instalment in order to warrant paying the 5%, and then potentially any other tech fees that may be associated with that as well. But that then means that down the track, as we're sort of growing with this, that a student will be able to pay their $500 deposit or their $1,000 deposit, whatever it is, choose to pay Refund Protect on that, and then opt in or opt out on their final payment as well. It's just that extra bit of flexibility there.
Yeah, and so I think the question there is going to be, you know, as we work to support that on the technical side of it, whether or not as an operator you want to offer that flexibility, because then it's one more level of potential confusion, because if they opt into the deposit but opt out of the final payment, only their deposit's protected. And
Correct.
so if they come back and they're like, but I thought I made it protect, it's like, well, you only protected the deposit. And, you know, so I think that has its pluses and minuses, right?
Definitely, absolutely. I think from my perspective, it's all about the communication. We are trying to be very, extremely clear in our communication with our clients. So it's all, when they're opting in and out, then they've got that confirmation on that email that they received for that payment. There is a point to be made that if we do go down the track of protect your payment and they cancel, that they'd have to make a claim for each individual payment, as opposed to the current sort of way where they can make one claim for the entire booking fee. So there's whether or not there's that balance of whether or not having a client make multiple claims in order to give them the flexibility of opting in and out on each payment, whether or not that's a benefit or not. But so it's definitely something we're still sort of exploring. It's a very fresh idea. To be honest, we've had no sort of pushback on, and we had wondered, because in our 90% uptake, we had all that was for deposit payments. So we sort of had wondered how that would then go once they came around to making their final payments, whether or not they didn't really realise that they'd actually opted in for their final payment, whether or not there'd be any pushback there. And we're just coming through all of our final payments right now, and there's been no pushback. So the concept of protecting your booking and having that information really clear at the beginning hasn't caused any issues. Just from my perspective, I'd like to have that additional flexibility.
Well, and I think the communication piece of that is so key here, and that's definitely been the majority of questions that we've been getting. So could you talk a little bit about how you went about ensuring that your travelers understood this, and include, if you can, a little bit about how you might have modified your terms and conditions?
So it was a very multi-layered approach, and I think from our perspective, because of the type of clients that we had that opportunity where we have had a very target market, so we could roll out the information many different ways, many different times. So for the group, as they're registering, they would get information on Refund Protect. It would all be there in their sort of booking information. We had pre-departure meetings or information sessions with the groups where we spoke about Refund Protect and gave them the opportunity to ask questions there. We made sure that the academics and the tour organisers were very well versed on Refund Protect, so that if they got questions, they could also field those answers. And more importantly, we made sure that the academics and the tour organisers really had a really good understanding of Refund Protect, because if they didn't, then it would have been difficult, I think, for them to understand why we were offering it to their students. But because we sort of took that extra time to make them understand, they were really comfortable with the product, and therefore by default all the students became really comfortable with the product as well. We are now creating a page on our website that has additional information as well. So we just sort of want to make sure that it comes from every angle, but it's all consistent as well. And then, just, I guess, being open to questions, I suppose.
And have you found that that's been a burden? Like, has that been a lot of extra work, or has that been just kind of, part of restarting selling travel?
A little bit of both. So in the verbal communication, no real issue. We're having meetings with our clients anyway to do that sort of stuff. From a written perspective, having to create, we found that the documentation from Refund Protect from that side, well, there isn't a great deal, for example. So there's no real FAQs that we can share that have been created by Refund Protect for our clients. So we've sort of had to go ahead and create that ourselves. So that is a little bit time consuming. The other point is that there's no real opportunity for face-to-face with, not face, like a phone conversation with our client and Refund Protect directly. So we're having to also field those questions, I suppose, and any sort of inquiry that comes through, which for the beginning has been useful because we're seeing the inquiry that comes through from our travellers. But it would actually be really useful to have any type of communication where a traveller could potentially just query what it is they're doing the cancellation before they have to go ahead and do that, what they need to do before they submit an online claim. And just a general FAQ. So that side of the initial setup there was a little bit complicated and time consuming, I suppose. But
Yep.
Yeah, but after the initial setup, it was okay.
Well, and I've just put into the chat a link to the example that Bianca has shared with us of her traveler FAQ. So you can be inspired by that to creating your own version. But Lucille, if you have any comments in terms of advice on how to craft such a document.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to the point that Refund Protect is enhancing your terms and conditions. So we would always ask that you include a link to our refundable wording, not only within the placement, but within your T's and C's and within the confirmation email. And we would fully support that process. However, we don't want to dictate your terms and conditions. So yeah, we would include the link in the placement, in your terms and conditions that are available online, and in the email confirmation. And the wording really does detail the reasons for refund application. But yes, that is a very good point, Bianca, that we do not have at the minute anything available that would say this is what you need to include on your application. It's stated in the refundable wording, but yes, that maybe could be expanded for each individual business. And look, moving forward, we're happy to have those conversations and work towards the common goal of what we both want from the businesses. We're happy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. We've developed a planner FAQ, but maybe given enough iterations, we could create a sort of, out of the box traveler FAQ on this product that we could share as the YouLi platform. If a business didn't want to go and create their own and they were happy to just link to that. So maybe that's something that we could co-create.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
And just looking at a few of the questions that have kind of come in here, I see Gina has asked, so if they opt in when they pay for the deposit, then is the fee added in the total or spread across all the payments? So it's spread across all the payments. So you're paying 8% on the 500, and then you're paying 8% on the 1500, and then you're paying 8% on the balance. So if you've broken it across those installments. And they don't have to click to opt in each time. So it's an opt-out interface. So by default, it's on. They can choose to opt out. If they leave it opted in when they check out on the deposit, it's automatically opted in for all the remaining installments. So it doesn't make them take action. It just is automatically included. It is shown. So it's always broken out. If you have a credit card surcharge, that's broken out. If you have the refundable booking, that is broken out. So they can see where those are coming. And to Lucille's point about including links in the email confirmations, we do that for you. So when they choose to make that booking refundable, we include in their confirmation email an explanation, links off to the refundable terms and conditions from Refund Protect, as well as links to your terms and conditions. And we also include a nice little shortcut that says if you need to apply for a refund, click here. And that automatically includes their reference code, which means it preloads the information for them for their application. So in terms of like their name, their trip start date, stuff like that, and how much they've paid. So it's sort of like all preloaded for them if they click from the link in that email. So that's one of the services that we provide in this integration, is that we take care of that communication piece for you. So great question, Gina. And then Haley is asking, have there ever been any situations where Refund Protect refuses to cover a customer's cancellation request? Lucille.
Yes, yes, there has. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. We would accept any genuine unforeseen circumstance outside of the traveler's control, except change of mind. So I just don't feel like going anymore is not a risk we can manage. And if somebody submits an application under that reason, we have to have an understanding of there has to be something that has stopped you traveling. So that is a application that we would refer back to the customer and ask for further details. Then there is very, very rarely a situation where somebody just wakes up and goes, I don't feel like going anymore. There usually is a situation that would lead to that person not traveling. So as long as they can explain that to us, but that is one of the reasons that we would not, well, the only reason really why we would not be able to accept an application for refund, because again, it's managing the risk in the individual's life. Also as well, and this is where the education piece comes in with you speaking to your customers about what Refund Protect is. If the liability of the travel event falls to the travel organizer, so if the travel has to be cancelled, then we cannot refund the customer. This is something that is managing an issue in their life. So that's the two reasons in total transparency.
So if the Colorado snowstorm turns into an unstoppable natural force and Eleanor has to cancel the trip to Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
that won't be refundable under this. Is that
Exactly.
right?
That's right. So if the travel event cancels by the travel organizer, then the liability falls to the travel organizer. If traveler cannot get to event because of huge weather event, but the trip still runs, then that's a risk in the individual's life and they would get a refund. Does that make sense? Great. Hopefully.
Yeah, it does to me. I hope any questions there from Eleanor on that point, or Haley?
So we've also got that mapped out in our terms and conditions as well, where we, sorry, I'll come back to that question you asked before, Jen, about how we changed our terms and conditions. So we just sort of restructured them, I suppose, to have them be cancellation by you, the traveller, cancellation by us, cancellation by the university, to really map out those conditions, because you're right, it is different if we as a travel agency were to cancel the program, or if the university were to cancel the program. That's no fault of the student. It's not the student not being able to go for individual reasons. So we did have to restructure that portion of our terms and conditions to make sure that the student or the traveller was still as protected as possible there as well.
Here, let me throw a tricky one at you. What if a traveler books in optimistically thinking that they will be able to travel in January of 2023, but come January of 2023, Bhutan hasn't opened their borders, or they've reintroduced a quarantine or something that makes it impossible to go. So whose fault is that?
No one's, but Refund Protect won't cover that. So like a lot of things, like most insurances, like insurance policies as well, Refund Protect won't cover if there is quarantine or if a border closes. So we also had to manage our own terms and conditions to work out what we wanted to do there. We've essentially brought in a reassure policy where we offer travel vouchers and whatnot if there was to be a government border closure or a government imposed quarantine period. We have done that because optimistically we are hoping that isn't going to reoccur, and if it does, not to the level that we've experienced in the last 2 years. But that is definitely something that we as a business had to decide what we wanted to do in that situation and what sort of risk we were willing to take and how we could still ensure that our customers are protected without, I guess, jeopardizing the business.
And is that clearly stated in those terms and conditions, that case?
Correct. That's in our terms and conditions. So that then comes under where we've got our cancellation by the traveller, cancellation by the client, cancellation due to government border closures. That's entirely separate in our terms and conditions now.
All right. Great. Lucille, do you have any other clarifying points on that?
No, that's
Okay.
but yeah, no. Thank you, Bianca.
Yeah. Just making sure. So many good questions here. Is it possible to only roll out the RP integration on some trips? So currently we turn it on for all trips, but remember that there is an opt-out option. So your travelers don't have to take it. And one thing I did notice that that was done really well by Bianca on this is that at the top of her checkout, she actually talks about refundable bookings right there. And so I think if you are a little like, well, I want to try it, but I'm, I don't know, you can, clarify the information above that so that as the traveler is scrolling down and seeing this, they know that they can choose that. So just making it really clear and saying, hey, we're introducing this new thing. If you're not interested, just click non-refundable booking. So if you don't want to push it too hard, you can always clarify in the text that sits above your checkout.
Jen,
So that's a good way to kind of get that out.
Sorry, Jen, can you scroll down a little bit more, just down to the non-refundable? That to me, when the refundable has a lot of blurb talking about all the great reasons why you should make it refundable. I like the idea under non-refundable booking, if there was a little bit of text saying that you've basically given up this option, you know what I mean? You've now assumed the risk, as the client, you're assuming the risk that you've got it all sorted with your travel insurance or whatever. By clicking that, you've agreed basically to not take this. And I just think that might help, a lot in the future if there was a cancellation and there was a dispute about this sort. There's a lot of wording around why you should make booking refundable, but there's no wording under non-refundable booking.
I actually agree with that. I think that would be really beneficial. Initially, I would love to see like a secondary pop-up saying, "Are you sure you don't want to protect your booking?" Something along because it's true. Because some people have clicked. Once you click non-refundable booking, you can't go back. You can't go back and protect your booking later. So I do actually think that something like that would be really beneficial as well.
Lucille, any comments on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we are a global business and we work across many, many different regions, and the way the different businesses from different parts of the world want to communicate Refund Protect can be very, very different. And we do have some very interesting examples of how people would word the no box of "you are now surrendering your refundable term." Is something that we've had a suggestion of, and we've had to veto such a thing. But yeah, absolutely. Just highlighting that the non-refundable booking is non-refundable with the conditions of the risk in the individual's life is something that we would definitely encourage.
I think it only needs to be minimal as well, because me personally would like to keep it a really positive experience and not feeling like we're forcing the client into something. So I guess by giving them all the information about the positivity of having a refundable booking as opposed to not. Yeah. I'm just remembering the first wording that we put in there when we were first doing the integration. So I think it would be useful for them to, acknowledge that they've now chosen a non-refundable booking, and that they are now agreeing that your terms and conditions as a business will be what comes into play if they choose to cancel, would be great. But at the same vein, still needing to keep it, like, you don't want to call the client an idiot or something like that because they're choosing to go for a non-refundable booking. Exactly. But I think you do need to, that it would be great to reiterate that is the option that they have chosen. Here is the link to your terms and conditions to make sure that they understand
I
their
think that's a
choice.
great suggestion, and I'm happy. And I know, Ackland, we've talked about this before, and I think, I think we just need to work through the wording. So we're sort of coordinating with Refund Protect to get the right terminology so that it is both clear but positive, in the sense of like, oh, okay, well, you have taken on the responsibility and liability kind of thing. So like we're transferring responsibility to you to make sure that your insurance covers or whatever. I do want to just, since I have my screen share, I just want to reinforce that what we show here, that is showing the amount based on the payment installment that they've chosen. So if we switch that to deposit, see that drops to $845. Whereas if you're paying the amount in full, then it's $84.46.
That's
right?
where it got a bit confusing for my clients, I think.
As in,
Well, that they on my screen, yeah, it was paid a deposit and then refundable booking recommended, and it was $64 on a $6,000 trip, and it seemed to be that, wow, just for $64 I'm making my booking refundable, but you're not. You're making that payment refundable, not the
Yeah.
booking.
Yeah.
So we address that in our FAQs initially with this group. There is no real ideal way, and we have definitely fielded a few questions. There has been a small amount of confusion, but nothing that couldn't be sort of fixed up or tied away in an email. But that is something that we did address in our FAQs, that they'd be paying the refundable amounts on the payment that they were physically making at the time. And
I think oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. So maybe not ideal, but that's the best way we could figure out with that one. Yeah.
I think as we look to allow them to choose to opt in and opt out of each payment, we'll probably need to make things a lot clearer. But I think Ackland makes a good point that when you first come in here, if you haven't read an FAQ, then it's not immediately clear. And so we were thinking maybe just adding a little bit of language that, you were agreeing to pay this fee for all remaining installments or something like that. So so a little tweak there, I think probably would be valuable.
Yeah. I just saw that question come through from Eleanor as well. Could you change the term to refundable payment? So that's what we're exploring. I think it's important to differentiate. Refundable payment would imply that it's just the amount that you're paying that is refundable, and by default you would have the choice to make the next payment non-refundable, which is not the way that it's set up right now. So because technically it is the booking that is currently refundable, and Refund Protect are very particular on the wording as well. They're very there has to be very specific wording around this, which I'm sure they can elaborate on. But once you give the traveller the option to actually, if they don't want to apply Refund Protect on their final payment, then that's when it becomes refundable payments as opposed to refundable bookings.
Just a quick one, Gina, I think you had your hand up. Did you have a final question?
Oh yeah, I was just typing it, so this will be quicker. In that screen you just had, where it had the option to opt in, and then it has the T's and C's. Are the T's and C's for Refund Protect, or are the T's and C's for your own company?
This goes to Refund Protect, but I think
Refund Protect. Yeah, I just think that maybe that also could be clarified, because that might be confusing of whose T's and C's they are.
Well, we put our T's and C's at the beginning because we have our travellers agree to our terms and conditions at the beginning, whereas at this particular point in making that choice, they are agreeing to the Refund Protect terms and conditions because it's now there.
Yeah, it might be, that little bit you've got at the top, it might, if I did it or someone else did it, just actually highlight that, because just as you said before, quite often, how you said about having a pop-up box, a lot of people don't read a lot of that thing. And I said what was just brought up before about that percentage in each payment and in each installment, I think that also needs to be clear, because sometimes people just glaze over a little bit.
Yeah.
They don't read properly.
So we made a choice not to advertise the percentage, and when we actually discuss it with our clients, we never specify what the exact percentage is.
Yeah.
We figure it's easy enough for them to work out if they want to, but we also feel like if you draw attention to it, that's when you're going to get more questions on it. And it's not that we're trying to hide it. We're still very clear on it. And if anyone does ask, then we flat out tell them it's 8%. But we don't see the need to draw attention to it because we feel like that would have affected the opt-in rate.
Because you could sort of word it in the sense that this refundable booking will be spread out over your payments, or just wording to that effect.
I think that's a good bit of clarification that we can look to add into that section. And I do think adding some text under non-refundable booking would be great, and potentially linking to the operator's terms and conditions there would probably make a lot of sense, because you're sort of saying it's sort of, again, you're making it non-refundable, so our terms and conditions apply, right?
That's awesome, then.
I think this is the stuff that needs to, the process that you need to go to if you're looking to adopt Refund Protect. And the great thing is that Reho has come before you. We've pulled together this FAQ for you as an organizer to look through. And then Bianca has kindly shared an example of a Refund Protect FAQ for your travelers, but note that this is, again, still targeted to you. So don't share this link directly to your customers. Be inspired by this and build your own content, which you can either put, you can either put it up in here if you want to make it really, really clear and have them read it before, or if you want, you can put it down below. Oh, I see. So Bianca's chosen not to put the content that's below, but you can put a block of pricing explanation below this as well. So if people kind of scroll through and they're still not sure, you can provide some clarity below it. So we give you a little bit of flexibility there.
I currently have it in the information section simply because we opened up information prior to the payments being open.
Right. Okay, great. So Reho has chosen to put that as a highlight actually on that front page for the information. So there's a couple of different options depending on how you want to express that to your travelers. And that's just part of the process when you decide to integrate Refund Protect onto YouLi. So I think we've come up to the hour, and I think we had some amazing questions. Did we cover everything, or is there anyone with an outstanding question?
Did you want to just maybe that one question about when does the trip start?
Yeah, that's a great one. So this came up in terms of, for the purposes of requesting a refund, when does the trip actually start? Because of course, refundable booking is pre-trip, and then travel insurance kicks in when the trip starts. So especially if the booking doesn't include a flight, does the trip start include, does it start when you get on the plane, or does it start when you arrive at your destination?
Yes, it would be the successful attendance of the booked event. So it would be arriving at the destination. So there could be an incident, on the way to the airport, or even as you have reached the initial bit of the travel package. We are managing the risk up until arrival at the first point of the travel destination. And just to also clarify as well, that we are managing the risk in the run up to the event, but the traveller has 60 days post-event to tell us why they couldn't attend. Because if you break your leg the day before a holiday, you're not going to think about getting a refund. You're going to think about fixing your leg. And we want you to do that. So there's a time period where they can come back and tell us what the reason for not attendance was.
Yeah, great. And so then it's really important whether or not the flight is included in the package that's being sold or not. And so if the refundable event, in this case the booking on YouLi, doesn't include a flight, then the trip doesn't start until they arrive to the meeting point for the tour.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And just to bear in mind as well, so we have really sophisticated refund software that we use to manage the refund applications. And in some cases, the refund application may be accepted by AI technology. So by the time somebody submitted the application, they could have a refund in their bank account within minutes. However, when there are situations and bookings that are to the value like what Bianca is planning for the students within the £5,000 region, we want to make sure that they're being handled with care. So we have teams of customer experience people all around the world who would look at the individual's situation, what the structure of the booking was, what has stopped that person, just to ensure that we are giving the person a refund when they should get a refund, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brilliant. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I look forward to working with more customers. We have 3 sort of bleeding edge clients who are adopting Refund Protect so far, and we have a lot more that are very interested. So we expect this year to be very much a year of rolling out Refund Protect for our clients. And we will continue to improve the documentation as well as the checkout experience to make sure that this is as clear and, you know, provides the best customer experience for clients. And we hope ultimately this becomes something that you guys want to keep even post-pandemic, because it provides that extra level of care for your travelers in a way that doesn't come out of your pocket if something goes wrong for them. Thank you guys so much. It was so great to see you. Thank you, Bianca, Lucille,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.